Thank you, Shannon. Shannon's also the painter of the Pure in Heart painting in the back there. Multi-talented, huh? Yeah. But beautiful and ugly are two words that just dominate our thinking. I was pondering this considerably recently, and just so much of our day we think about, we're dominated by, do we look good? Do I look pretty? Do I look ugly? Personality-wise, do I look pretty? Do we look ugly? Now, big news, maybe, this August, Facebook people, by applause, Facebook. No Facebook people here this morning. Okay. I guess it was lost on you then. Okay. This August, Facebook reaches 1 billion people on Facebook, okay, which is 1/8 of the world's population, which means something brand new, a new phenomenon in the history of the human race, and that is that I can project, whatever I can project on my little Facebook page, potentially can be read by half the population of the United States, a good population, one of the 100 countries or so that allow Facebook, people all over the world can see what little piece of information I want to share with everyone. It's this whole new thing, which has created, I think, the new phenomenon known as the status photo. Now, since only 3 of you are on Facebook, or you're too tired to clap, one of the two, the Facebook photo is like your picture. It's like, this is me. I get to put a picture up. So I'm going to find a good picture and I'm going to put it up because this is what potentially the citizens of the earth are going to see as me. This has never been an opportunity open to us to have that many people see some little part of me potentially. So I got to choose well this status photo. So there's all kinds of approaches with the status photo. When you look at the younger crowd, like the under 18 crowd, it's usually pretty, for a standard 15-year-old girl, it's some provocative pose, doing the pursed hip-hop lips and the squint, and then some arm jutting off to the side, trying not to reveal that you're taking a picture of yourself in the ladies' room with your smartphone. There's that. And then there's another variation on the teenage photo is the, hey, look how cool I am, I'm an underage drinker, which fascinates me that you would post that for that many people, because inevitably, about 24 hours will elapse before one of the other Facebook parents calls your parents, and then your new photo will be, hey, I don't have the necessary IQ points to figure out that there are grown-ups on Facebook who can read, and now I'll be grounded to 2017. Yay, I'm so smart. Another approach is to be seen with, I know this is a common thing with insecure teenagers, be photographed with someone. It says, hey world, I have at least one other friend. I'm not a complete loser, so back off. Okay, that's the one other friend. A lot of times people get photographed with something that they think makes them interesting. And that's kind of like you look at a photograph, some guy next to his motorcycle, that's right. Hey, planet Earth, I'm a motorcycle guy. That's how cool I am. Or standing, with the Eiffel Tower off in the distance, or at least a good photo of the Eiffel Tower off in the distance, or, with a life-size figurine of Yoda in the background so other scary people are attracted to your Facebook page. Will not judge, I will. I will not. So that's usually the approach. Now, then you reach a new realm, and that's the older Facebook users. You know who you are. The older Facebook users are not really using any of these techniques. It's more like you look at your photo and you think, yeah, I'm not sure if this is my best bet at this point, at this sad juncture in my life. So that's a whole other approach, too, of the alternatives to your actual photo is I love this one, the Dorian Gray people, if you're a literary type, okay, who's like, I'm going to put a really old picture of myself, some orange-tinted photo from the 70s. Maybe nobody will notice all the 70s styles and the 70s cars in the background, and they'll think somehow I've stayed this young over the decades by drinking the blood of virgins or something, some magical trick I've used, and everyone will buy it. Yeah. Then there's other people like, okay, my photo, not really my best bet here. Let me just put up the pictures of my kids. Here's my kids. You don't really want to see me. Here's my kids. Aren't they adorable? Just groove on them for a while. And then the saddest one is all when people just put like a landscape, like a sunset beach or something. It's like, wow, that's really, you've officially reached like, yeah, you don't want to see me. Just enjoy the scenery. I got nothing. Just enjoy. That's all. Very, very sad. The Facebook status photo is how I project to the world. But what it is really, in a serious way, is the study of how we as humans choose to project ourselves. The strategy that we all use is project the pretty, underplay the ugly. Now, this isn't just about exterior, okay? This is about every aspect of ourselves. We do this thing. Americans, I looked up the stats on this, $10 billion per year on cosmetic surgery. Okay, are we obsessed with this? 22 million on cosmetics, another 9 million, 22 billion on cosmetics, another 9 billion on other beauty products. That's a lot of money. Worldwide, if you count everything, if you count health spa memberships and perfume and fragrances and beauty products and facial creams and everything like that, every year the world spends $160 billion on trying to project the pretty and underplay the ugly. This is what we do. Americans, it has been pointed out, spend more on beauty products and beauty services than they do on education, which is why the world perceives us as more pretty than we are smart. Okay, no question there, no wonder. Someone actually very seriously pointed out that the Western world spends more. If took all the money that the Western world spent on perfume in 1 year, you could feed every starving person in the world on just 1 year's worth of perfume purchases. Needless to say, we are obsessed. The best of us, to some degree, are obsessed with this whole thing of like, I want people to see my good side. I don't want people to see my bad side. And for some of us hapless folks, there's no good side. Okay, you reach that place. Now, all to this all comes down to, believe it or not, if you were starting to doubt me, the words of Jesus. In our next beatitude, we've looked at some crazy things Jesus said. Blessed are you if you're poor in spirit. Blessed are you if you're mourning. Yeah, that sounds really happy. Happy are you if you're meek, if you're holding back. Yeah, that sounds fun. And this one, happy are you, Jesus says, those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Matthew chapter 5, our beatitude for today. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. That's it. There's the phrase. So it's not like we need to see it in print. But if you wanted to, there it is. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall... Again, another crazy thing said by Jesus. How is this good to hunger and thirst for righteousness? Well, the key to understanding Jesus' words, the key is to understand he's not pointing out, happy are you if you hunger and thirst, if you have this insatiable drive, this craving. That's not the good part. Because we all have that. And clearly we're not all happy. The craving Jesus is talking about is if you crave for the right thing, you will be satisfied. But there's no question, everybody in the world is hungry. It dictates everything we do, like I said. When we put on clothes in the morning, you are craving, ultimately, I want to be valuable. That's what the central craving of every human is. I want to be valuable. I want to know that I count, that I'm worth something, that I have meaning in this life. And ultimately, if you listen to the words of Jesus, you connect to the Supreme Being. But a lot of us don't make that connection. Hey, planet Earth, I want you to know that I'm worth something. I have value. Can you understand that? When we put on clothes in the morning, we dress for something. There's no such thing as a neutral look, I guess. But you put on clothes like, I want to show, at least maybe you want to show, I want to show people how wealthy I am. This will show you how worth I am. How worth I am? I don't think that's a phrase at all. Until now. I want you to know how worthwhile I am. So now if you see that I am a person of affluence, this will make you feel that I am valuable. Or maybe you want to identify with a certain group when you put on clothes. I want everyone to know that I belong to this group. So I have belonging. It may not be your group, but it's the group I want to belong to. Or maybe I just want to look normal today, and that's part of your statement too. I just want to connect with the human race. I just want you to know I'm part of the herd. I want to be there for my fellow herd members. And so I'm going to just dress normal today, or so on and on it goes. When you choose a wardrobe, you are doing something to try to say, I have worth, I have value, I have meaning. However you drive, if you have the luxury of being able to choose your vehicle and not just whatever's on sale at the moment. But that's a decision too. It's like I want to say something. I'm trying to say to everyone, look at this. Look at what I got here. See? This is my value. This is my meaning. I want to impress total strangers as I drive down the street with what I'm driving. The things we say, and I became convicted of this years ago, watching myself navigate through conversations. And I'm going to assume probably most of you have the same thing. If you listen closely, you'll find yourself, I want to say something really bad. Notate that moment in a conversation. I want to say something. I want to tell a story really bad. And in my case, I'll just get really loud and interrupt somebody if I want to say it really bad. But then I'm like, why do I want to tell that so bad? Because I'm doing it. I'm doing it again. I've got that craving, that hunger and thirst. This story is going to make me look good somehow. Or if it makes me look bad, it'll make everyone laugh, and that'll give me value. Or I want to tell this story because I just want to drop in the fact that I was in Seattle a few years ago, because somehow I feel like that gives me worth. Or I actually met that famous person in my dreams, in my delusions. And so but it's like when you see yourself maneuvering through a conversation so often, if you look closely, you can see yourself. It's that hunger. It's that craving. I want you all to know I have worth. I have meaning. I have value. Can you notice that? Really sounds kind of pathetic when you just pull it all away and look at the cold, ugly reality of the human condition. We are desperately hungry. Jesus recognized that, knowing this human race that he created. Oh, it's not about the hunger. It's what are you hungering for? We can establish that we're all hungry. It's what David said in the book of Psalms. He expressed this hunger as a deer pants in Psalms. As the deer pants for the water, for flowing streams, so pants my soul for you. That's all of a sudden sound weird to see pants in the middle of that. I don't know why. I'll just share that moment with you. Anyway, so pants my soul for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? I'm just angry. I'm craving a deer panting for the flowing streams. And then he goes on to say, as deep calls unto deep. And that's where it sounds really mysterious and ominous. You can hear eerie music in the background. Deep calling unto deep. At the roar of your waterfalls, I'm beholding something awesome in nature. And I just feel this deep call of the Creator calling deep within me. Your breakers and your waves have gone over me. That's a depiction of hunger. That's a depiction of thirst. I'm craving something. And David recognized, though, where that craving is satisfied with God. But many famous people, many famous poets have notated this. Neil Young in the late 60s, after he'd achieved fame, said, everybody knows this is nowhere. He felt cheated. I can't believe it. I've made it to the top and it's nowhere. It's not satisfying anything. In the 70s, Kerry Livgren of the group Kansas said, all we are, dust in the wind. Within a year, he became a Christian after he wrote that despairing song. In the 80s, Bono, also a searcher of God, said, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. In the 90s, Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins said, despite all my rage, can you finish this? I'm still just a rat in a cage. What is this meaningless life? It's just craving. It's just seeking. It's just straining. It's fighting and fussing. Wow. This is not a pretty picture of humanity. So Jesus is not coming along and saying, hey, if you're really hungry, really thirsty, you'll be happy. You're missing the big chunk. Oh, no, you're already hungry and thirsty. Every second of your life, there's this craving, either seething below the surface or just splashing out on those around you. But it's there. Jesus says, blessed are you who hunger and thirst, who have that craving for righteousness. And that's ultimately what we're hungering for that can only be satisfied by God. What are you hungry for? We're all hungry, but what are you hungry for? And it is to be ultimately, at the end of the day, simplest way to say it, I crave to be adored. I want to be adored, honestly. I know it's not manly for God. That's right, ladies, I want to be adored. Something about that doesn't quite drip with masculinity. But if we're being honest with ourselves, so much of that hunger and thirst we all feel inside is just, I just want to be adored at the end of the day. I want someone to just love me. I want someone to think that I'm attractive, that I'm purty, not on just the outside, but also on the inside as well. I long to be adored. Now, you word study people, I'm addicted to words, okay? Love me some words. So if you're not a word study person, it won't be long, okay? But I am so easily entertained I just get fascinated by words. It's a weakness I have. So I looked up the word that Jesus used for righteousness. Jesus spoke a form of Hebrew, and the word he used was tzedakah. And like all good Hebrew words, it requires a lot of phlegm to say it properly. That's right. If you're going to travel in the Mideast, you make sure you have a lot of phlegm on supply. You clear your throat, you've lost half your vocabulary, okay? Tzedakah, okay? And that's how you say it. But tzedakah, some form of that. Jesus says, blessed are you who crave for tzedakah. What we translate as righteousness, but it's not that simple. You feared it wouldn't be, did you? It's not that simple. It's not just about righteousness, because I think we really misunderstand righteousness. And because we really understand righteousness, we are tortured Christians. Christians should not be tortured by this, yet we find ourselves that way. Righteousness, in most people's mind, is a point. Tzedakah, that Jesus used, is absolutely not a point. It's a relationship that you're in. You're either in or you're out. You're not kind of tzedakah. You're not sort of, you don't have this has been a really good tzedakah day, or a really bad, not much tzedakah today. There's no meter that reads degrees of tzedakah. You're either in or you're out in this relationship of righteousness. This being in good standing with God, all or nothing. Now, it's important you understand that, because here are two views, I think, the two most common views of righteousness are this way. I'll put them in very simple terms that I can understand. Righteousness view number one, that's very popular, even among Christians. Picture it this way. God gives you a picture of a supermodel and says, this is righteousness. I want you to look like that. And like, my legs aren't that long. My waist isn't that skinny. I don't have those features. But you try, and you're like, well, maybe if I just get a really tight corset on, and maybe if I grit my teeth and really diet really hard, maybe if I tan myself up, maybe if I do my hair. How about this, God? Yeah, you're getting closer, but you're not quite there. You're never going to be satisfied if that's your view of righteousness. But that's a lot of Christians' view of righteousness. I think I did good today. I think I was extra righteous today. I think maybe I made God a little happier today. Then you don't understand righteousness. That's not what Jesus is saying, because that'll never satisfy you. You're going to be eternally dissatisfied. Every time you start feeling good about yourself, you're going to pull out that picture of the supermodel, like, I'm still not good. Man, last week the lighting was perfect and I looked much better, but this week, not so good. But that's how a lot of Christians feel like, I just hope that I'm in 37% good standing with God today. Jesus says that's not what's going to slake your craving. That's not going to work. Because you're either in or you're out. A better understanding of righteousness that's more accurate to what Jesus is saying. Forget the picture of the supermodel in your pocket. Instead, this time, God puts a note in your pocket that says, hello, beautiful. And every time you pull it out, you say, hello, he thinks I'm beautiful. Because you're either in or you're out. Jesus says to these Jewish people who do not yet understand what this salvation is, in 3 years from now, a huge epochal event is going to take place involving me on a cross. And it will mean you are righteous for good. It will make you righteous all the way there. It will be a relationship of righteousness with you. And you will finally be satisfied. Not yet, my fellow Jewish kinsmen. Not yet. But the day is coming on the cross. I will take all the ugly from every corner of your soul and slap it on myself. And there on the cross, I will be as ugly can be. And from there on out, if you invite me into your life, if you embrace me, if you believe in me, you will be beautiful. Isn't that a much nicer picture of righteousness? You're beautiful. You just are. But I don't feel beautiful today. It doesn't matter how you feel. But last week, I know about last week. But yesterday, hello, beautiful. You just are. That's the righteousness that Jesus is talking about. The kind of righteousness that says, you're there. And tomorrow's not going to be any different. Yesterday, you were no further away. But do you ever feel insecure about your righteousness? I'm going to be honest. I know the right theology on this. It doesn't keep me from having weird, insecure thoughts. Okay? Do you ever feel like God doesn't like you? If you're unliked by God? I mean, forget unloved. You ever have days where I feel like I'm kind of embarrassed to go before God. I don't feel like he's going to like me very much. Uh-oh. Your theology is starting to have holes in it. Because that's not the righteousness that Jesus gives us. You don't feel unlike. You ever have some days where you feel like, wow, I just did something really good. I helped some homeless guy, or I helped Spring Ministries do a truck run or something. And you'll kind of want to strut before God. Hey, God, so I was out doing good Christian things for you. And you somehow feel like he really likes me today. That's not good thinking. You ever feel like you have to ask God for something and you almost want to, before I ask you, God, I just want to remind you that I did apologize yesterday. I did do that. And I think I've been better about my reading material. You try to want to give him your resume. All that is that kind of insecurity, not understanding what righteousness. And God's like, didn't I tell you were beautiful? What about the note in your pocket? That's what the righteousness of Jesus is all about. Hello, beautiful. Yeah, but I just don't feel. You ever feel like, I don't know, I feel embarrassed to tell God what I did this morning. I don't want to show up before him. Now, sins in your life can't affect your prayers. Don't misread that one. But it's like you're no less saved today than you were yesterday. After you do that embarrassing thing, you're no less saved. You're no less beautiful in God's eyes than you were last week when you were at your peak. Nothing you can do can make him love you any more or any less. There's nothing you can do. That's the kind of righteousness, Jesus says. This is going to satisfy you. If you have that craving to be adored, nothing is going to scratch that itch like the kind of salvation that is coming in the form of a cross. That is going to, if you reach out and embrace Jesus, if you believe on him, you are beautiful. Case closed. One of the most poignant expressions of this, a Christian poet I read, and it's very, very short, but it's called Like Mismatched Newlyweds. Okay, so let that soak in. Mismatched newlyweds. You've seen couples before and you think, wow, I wouldn't quite put those two together. And you feel kind of mean thinking that, but you do think it. Okay, so that's what this is called. Like Mismatched Newlyweds. And we're halfway done with the poem already. Okay, the title was pretty much. Like mismatched newlyweds, one of whom is feeling very insecure, I keep turning to God and saying, kiss me. There, poem over. But it's a great little expression. Like mismatched newlyweds, one of whom is feeling very insecure. We know which party that is. I keep turning to God and saying, kiss me. There's just no getting over that feeling of insecurity because it's just so hard for our human brains to grasp that kind of, but how can you constantly think I'm beautiful? How can you adore me that much? Because I see my ugly. And every day I see my ugly. And I just can't wrap my brain cells around the fact that you constantly see me as beautiful. But Jesus says there is a righteousness, a saraha, that is coming that will satisfy you. We're all hungry to feel valuable. Ultimately, we're hungry at the end of the day to feel adored. But what about the ugly? What do we do with that ugly in our life? I'm convinced that all of us to some degree play what I call the ugly hiding strategy. Okay? In my effort to project the pretty and underplay the ugly, I said all of us have it. It started with Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were great. They felt like totally loved, totally adored by God. Then they sinned, and then if you read Genesis chapter 3, you find them, and then they realized they were naked. They realized that they had ugly aspects of themselves they'd never seen before. It's not a statement on physiology. It's just think theologically. So it says they sewed leaves together to cover themselves, and they hid in the woods. And God came walking around. Hey, why are you guys hiding? As if he didn't know. Why are you guys hiding? Because for the first time ever, that began the human hobby. Ugly hiding strategy. Everyone's got an ugly hiding strategy. A lot of you, on a physical sense, grow up, when you're by the age you're 30. Oh, my ears are so huge. Oh, my forehead's too big. Oh, my chin's too small. Oh, my nose. Blah, blah, blah. Obsess about that. And so we know there's certain sides. Hey, we're taking a picture now. And I can see some of you who are really good to instantly get in the pose. I don't have a pose, okay? That's going to make me look any better than other. But suddenly he's like, okay, I know, because I know to minimize this. I know someone who smiled differently because when she was young, she had a kidney ailment that she had to take a certain kind of medicine that made the tops of her teeth look slightly gray that she noticed way more than everyone else. But it affected her smile. She would smile a certain way to cover up that part of her teeth. And it's like, wow. And so all learn these little strategies. Ladies, you know, very early on, most of you learn, it's like just, man, there's makeup. The whole world of makeup. You can do a whole world of things. You can reshape your eyebrows. You can reconfigure your lips. There's all kinds of places you can do. You can redden that up and lighten that up and minimize that and swoop down over that. If you're a guy, there's nowhere to run. Look in the mirror. I guess I'm going to have to develop a personality. That's my only recourse. Woo! Until you can grow facial hair, then there's something, you know. Let's try to block out some of it with like this acreage of beards. And then if that doesn't work, my next move is a burqa. I'm just going to move to a Muslim country and just walk around fully veiled. But that's what it is. We grow up, and but then that's just the physical side of things. Then you begin to realize there are ugly aspects of my personality. You don't really know this fully until you live with people. There were those ratty siblings you had that constantly pointed out your faults, but now I'm going to get out of the house, away from these people, and I'm going to marry someone who will adore me, and they won't notice anything. Sucker! If that's what you're thinking. And then you find out the person you're living with is like, you know, I've noticed this aspect of your personality, and then begins a whole new round of ugly hiding strategy. We all have a UHS, an ugly hiding strategy. It's like, well, I'm going to just I'll try to minimize that, or I'll try to steer conversations away from that certain topic that I don't want, that makes me look bad, and try to fan into flames areas that I think I'm good at. I'll try to distract people. Hey, look over here. Look at something better about myself. Or when people start getting close to that ugly part of your personality, and there's another person has noticed it, then we fly into a rage and get really defensive and yell at them for noticing our ugly. Or another form of that, we start crying. I'm the worst person in the world. Okay, when someone gets close to your ugly, oh, back away, back away. Or we just pinball from relationship to relationship. I'm going to stay with this person until they notice my ugly spots, and then, fine, out of here, boom. Now I'm embarrassed. You know my ugly spot. With the delusion that somewhere out there is somebody who's never going to notice the ugly aspects of yourself. It's like, wow, that sounds horrible. What a horrible, tortured existence. The whole thing that Adam and Eve started. Put your best side out. Project the pretty, underplay the ugly. I just want to be adored. Can't I just be adored? Enter the cross. Enter the cross, where what Adam and Eve started, God looks down at the planet Earth and says, somebody really needs a hug. At just the right time, God looks down at humans and thinks, oh, how tortured they are. Oh, how perplexed and bewitched and bothered and bewildered they are. How craving they are just to be adored. And then one of my favorite verses of Scripture ever, Romans chapter 6. Talk about good timing. You see, at just the right time, just at that right time, when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Very rarely will anyone die for a righteous person, though for a good person, someone might possibly dare to die. But God demonstrates His own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Now let me retell that verse in the language of ugly and beautiful to bring it back around. You see, at just the right time, when God realized we looked the absolute ugliest, nasty, hideous, repugnant, repulsive, when we were still powerless, at our absolute ugliest, Christ died for the ugly. Christ became the epitome of ugly on the cross for the ugly people. Very rarely will anyone die for a good-looking person, though for a beautiful person, someone might dive into a stream of molten lava to save a supermodel. It happens from time to time, but God demonstrates His own love for us in this. While we were at our absolute ugliest, Christ died for us. Christ died for us. And that's the beauty. That's why we can feel adored. Even though we see the ugly in ourselves, God says, look, I see your ugly better than anybody. You think I can't see that? And when it was at your ugliest, and I think it's our illusion, when we look at the cross, we picture ourselves looking really good. I always picture myself like wearing some really, all scrubbed down and neatly groomed, wearing a nice suit, cheering Jesus on, holding Sunday school papers when I was a little kid, or a Bible, and just saying, God, you can do it. You fight through this thing. But that's not what Jesus was looking at. Jesus was looking at us at our absolute worst. I heard one time, a long time ago, when someone doesn't like themselves, that's when they need you most. When someone doesn't like themselves, that's when they need you most. That's why I love about at just the right time. At the right time when you finally are tired of running and tired of craving and realize, I don't much like myself. I can't blame the people in my life. That's the human condition. I want everyone to see me as pretty, but I see my ugly oh so clearly. And I'm tortured by that. At just the right time, that's when Jesus looked down. You can tell a real friend, people who really love you stick with you when you feel the absolute worst about yourself. That's when you're not particularly attractive, when you feel bad about yourself, because you tend to have an ugly behavior when you're feeling ugly inside. I remember my friend Bob Haynes. Bob was weird among our friends. He was a real cool guy, but Bob liked his parents. And that's kind of sad that's one of the things that made Bob weird. But I remember Bob, even all through the rough high school, when we all felt alienated from our parents, Bob liked his parents. Like, you ever like your parents? Yeah, I do. My parents are cool. Whoa. But I remember one time, one of the reasons Bob liked his parents is he was driving his dad's car and got in some fender bender, got some dent, and he just felt horrible. He's like, I don't know, I've never done this before. I don't know what my dad's he loves this car. I can't, he's just like stressing. And finally, he makes the phone call to his dad, and we hear him on the other side. He's like, Dad, yeah, I had an accident. And then his dad said, what, did you wet yourself? His dad knew, of course, all too well what his son meant, but he also recognized that his son felt terrible about himself and thought, this is when perhaps a little warmth, a little levity will come in. And that's, real love is still there with you even when you feel horrible about yourself. I remember, and I try not to mention this too much because I'm embarrassed at how much this still haunts my memories, but 15 years ago, I was at a church in Florida for 3 years and got fired, and I felt like such a loser. I felt like never felt uglier about myself. And I remember my friend Mike, who lived there at the time. Mike was there pretty much recognized. He's a gruff, grumpy kind of guy, but he was with me the whole time. Let's go on a road trip. We took a road trip, drove up from Florida to New York, and then back several stops along the way. Just listening to me moan and complain and gripe and wallow. And forevermore, I will never forget the fact that he was there with me when I felt probably was no fun to be with at all. I can give a time I lived on an alley. I lived on an alley behind a junior high school. Now, that may not mean anything to you, but that means, of course, that I lived right behind Fight Alley. If there's ever an alley near a junior high school, by law, that is the required location for all fighting that goes on in junior, all the strutting and the crowing that goes on in junior high world. So I remember coming up over the hill one time, going into the back way to our house, and I see this. I can't even get into the alley because there's this huge crowd. And I see massive junior higher kids right after school, and I'm like, oh man, this looks like a fight crowd. Everyone's all interested in something, and I can't even see. And suddenly I get all this pent up rage from my junior high years when I was picked on. And I thought, if there's some big guy picking on a little guy, I'm getting out of this car. It's on, okay? There's about to be a throwdown. And I pictured the headlines the next day would read, Area Youth Minister pummels junior high kid. And but I'm like, oh man. But as God willed it, I didn't make it for the fight. By the time the crowd finally cleared for me to pull my car away, I see all the winners coming up the hill, smiling, happy, high fives going on, the golden children, those projecting health and prosperity, all like, hey, well. These were the pretty people. And I'm like, okay, there's clearly the winners of this fight. Where are the losers? Loser. And as I looked all around me, as I came closer to my driveway, I look and see, there he is. Has to be the kid, all sweaty, his hair all messed up, his shirt all disheveled, a cut on the side of his face. I don't know how that happened. But the beautiful sight was one other kid walking away with him, with his hands thrust in his pocket. As they walked away, all the world thinks you're ugly right now. You're a loser. But there is one who hangs with you. That's timing. That's the timing of a good friend. When you feel the absolute worst about yourself, your true friend is there with you. And that's what Jesus says. You humans feel absolutely terrible about yourself. It's better to picture yourself before the cross, not as some shiny, happy person cheering on the cross, but at your absolute worst, at your absolute snarling worst. Picture some scene in your life where it makes you wince to even remember those days. And to picture yourself not cheering God on or making affectionate, blowing kisses at the cross. Instead, you're snarling at the cross. If you can remember some scene like that, that's what you need to be. When you were at your absolute ugliest is when Christ died for you. So many scenes that I honestly, because I want to project my pretty and underplay my ugly, I don't want to tell you about, okay, that I picture myself in scene. But this one's been long enough. I picture myself 16 years old, selling a nickel bag to a guy in my church basement on Sunday morning. There, that's what I picture. There's one of my many scenes I can picture before the cross. It's like, wow. And know that at that time, that's when Jesus loved me, when I was the absolute most unlovable and the ugliest of all. And there is a sense of security when you know the one who sees you're ugly better than anyone else on the planet sees you're ugly, still thinks you're pretty. There is some satisfaction. Now, we're going to redo another story that we've done before. You've heard me tell this story before. You've probably maybe seen it on Oprah. It's been celebrated. But this is the story of Gerda Weissman. If you've been to the Holocaust Museum, you've heard her story. Gerda Weissman tells the story of how she met her rescue. She was a Jewish girl in Poland, and just a teenager. The Nazis took her family away. Her parents were ripped away from her. She was kept alive by the fact that she worked in a factory tirelessly, her and her sister. And Gerda then tells where she's 19 years old, now been in the prison camp system for 5 years, weighed 68 pounds as a 19-year-old. Because of nutritional deficiency, her hair turned white. She had not had a bath in 3 days, wearing crusty prison clothes. And because this is Memorial Day, we're going to hear Gerda and her husband tell the story of her rescue.
My very clear view of freedom and liberation came that morning when I stood in this doorway of that abandoned factory. And I saw a car coming down the hill. And the reality of that came when I saw the white star on its hood and not the swastika. And there were two men in that car. One jumped out.
I saw some skeletal figures trying to get some water from a hand pump, but over on the other side, leaning next to against the wall next to the entrance of the building, I saw a girl standing, and I decided to go walk up to her.
I remember that aura of that awe of the disbelief in daylight, to really see someone who fought for our freedom, for my ideals. And he looked like God to me.
And I asked her in German and in English whether she spoke either language, and she answered me in German.
And I knew what I had to say. And I said to him, we are Jewish, you know. For a very long time, at least to me it seemed very long, but he didn't answer me. And then his own voice betrayed his emotion. He was wearing dark glasses. I couldn't see his eyes. He said, so am I.
I asked about her companions.
He said, may I see the other ladies? A form of address we hadn't heard for 6 years. I told him most of the girls were inside. They were too ill to walk. And he said to me, won't you come with me? I didn't know what he meant. So he held the door open for me and let me precede him. And that was the moment of restoration, of humanity, of humaneness, dignity, of freedom.
We went inside the factory. It was an indescribable scene. There were women scattered over the floor on scraps of straw, some of them quite obviously with a mark of death on their faces.
I took him to see my friends.
The girl who was my guide made sort of a sweeping gesture over this scene of devastation and said the following words: "Noble be man, merciful and good." And I could hardly believe that she was able to summon a poem by the German poet Goethe, which is called The Divine, at such a moment. And there was nothing that she could have said that would have underscored the grim irony of the situation better than what she did.
And this first young American of Liberation Day is now my husband. He opened not only the door for me, but the door to my life and my future.
You think Gerda and Kurt, who've been married for 40, 50 years now, you think she ever feels unattractive to him? She just remembers, he saw me when I was my absolute worst, when I was skeletal and bony, smelled bad, looked bad in every way. But if he can fall in love with me at a time like that, I think this couple might make it. What do you think? But I mean, that's that beautiful story, though, depicts in our moments of insecurity, and we're going to still have insecurity. We got to remember, what I'm hungering and thirsting for is adoration, and God, through the cross, adores me. Bill Gaither said these very simple words, I am loved. I can risk loving you. And then I love this explanation, because the one who knows me best loves me most. There is nobody who sees all my ugly spots better than God. And there's nobody who sees all your ugly spots better than God. But he loves you more than anyone can love you. It's like, wow. So I can risk loving you. I can risk doing all kinds of things. In the face of that kind of love, this God who puts the note in my pocket through the blood of Jesus that says, hello, beautiful, every day of my life. Can I possibly manage any areas of stubbornness? Can I really get stubborn with that God? Is there something is it possible to not reach out and embrace that God? If it's possible that some of you this morning have never really reached out and believed Him. Wow. I feel sorry for the torment in you as you continue to hunger for Him. That righteousness, that tzedakah He offers on the cross, He's going to think you're beautiful through the blood of Jesus. And if there's any area, once we have reached out to Him, that we think, I still am holding, I still am not sure, I don't want to, and you know what it is. You know what your area of stubbornness is. Is there any way we can say no to this Savior who thinks I'm beautiful? I don't know. Let's pray. Father, thank you that you love us that much. And I don't think we're ever going to fully comprehend it. It just doesn't make sense to us, Lord. And this is the kind of love that doesn't fit any other relationship in our life. But I pray that we will seek a lifetime just grasping that somehow, mysteriously, magically, you think we're beautiful once we're covered by the blood of Jesus. And I pray if there's any here this morning, Father, who aren't, that they will not hold back, that they will reach out to you. In your Son's name I pray. Amen.